Hey, so I said I was going to do a series of videos about the bands that I play. So, second band I'm going to talk about is the Verity band, and how that came about. So, going back to the Paddy Maguire band, I started playing for the Paddy Maguire band and doing more teaching, and what I did was I needed more work. I needed to fill my diary up, so I started doing a lot of depth work. So I kept mostly actually through using Facebook, just kind of putting on Facebook that I'm available as a last minute guy. You know, you need a bass player or maybe guitar player stand in, then get in touch, I'll do that. And it worked brilliantly. I went through a period of playing for lots of different bands. Sometimes it would be rock bands where I knew a lot of the songs they did anyway, because a lot of rock bands cover a very very similar kind of a set, and I've played those songs many times over the years. So but sometimes it'd be blues bands where usually the changes would be quite easy to follow, and also some other kinds of bands where it wasn't so easy, and you know, you just kind of you go and do your best. The thing to do is to not worry, because the band's got a gig, and they haven't got, you know, a bass player, and so you just go, you take your gear and you fill in and you do your best, and that worked. It worked really well for me. It didn't just work well for me as a way of kind of, you know, boosting my income, and the enjoyment and excitement of doing that, again, flying by the seat of the pants kind of situation, but also it was good for me because prior to this situation, it had been a long time since I'd really done many pub gigs. I'd been doing club gigs and the Tony Martin band prior to that, so it kind of it got my name about on that circuit, and it gave me a chance to get to know lots of venues, landlords, bookers, and that kind of served me very well later on when I started booking lots of gigs. I don't talk too much about the depth thing because I have done a video previously some time ago about depth work and how to approach it and stuff. So so whilst in the middle of doing all this last minute standing type playing, I attended this thing called Event. Now what it is, anyone who follows me on Facebook or whatever will know that I'm an endorsee for Vintage, and Fret King is a very cool vintage guitar which I love very much. I've got many vintage guitars and basses. I've got 5 Fret King basses, and excuse me, I should give some background on this. Okay, so basically, right, there's a company called John Hornby Skews, and they are a distributor of musical instruments. I think they're the biggest distributor in the UK. I could be wrong on that, and correct me if I am. I can take it. But JHS, they have their own brands that they manufacture, and they also distribute numerous brands like Dan Electro and Ex-Vive and Snark. I'm an endorsee for all those products as well. And every year at their base in Leeds, they have this thing called Event, and what they do is they have a few days, like like open days, and they invite all the shop owners and people who purchase instruments off of them to sell on to attend, and there's food and drink and fabulous hospitality, and all the endorsees are also invited. The idea is that you kind of, you know, have a nice day out, and there's stages around the place, and you get up and jam. So you have an opportunity to jam with musicians that some of which are very famous, all of which are supremely talented, and you just get to do some, you know, off the cuff kind of playing, and you sort of entertain the shop guys, and demonstrate the products, and it's works well for everyone. It's a great occasion. So going to an event every year, the star attraction, or one of the star attractions at event, would be John Verity. For me in particular, because I was Argent fan, and John was the lead singer in Argent. For anyone who doesn't know, you really should. But I had already got a couple of John's solo records, and I got an album by a band he did after Argent called Phoenix. So I was well aware of who the guy was, and I was a fan. And I got a chance to jam with him a couple of times and chat with him. And then whilst I was in the middle of all this, you know, depping stuff, I went to an event one year, and John asked me if maybe at some point I might like to do a few gigs with his band. And of course I said yes, and what it is John was working with a pool of players, so he had a number of drummers and bass players that he would call upon to do his gigs, and he'd got a few gigs coming up that were reasonably near me, and he didn't have anyone to play them, so I learnt his set, and actually what I ought to mention is John had a folder of live versions of his tracks, very well organised, and so I said yes, and he sent me these tracks, so I had something to learn the songs from, that would be pretty close to how we would perform them live, although it is very much a live band, and there's some improvising and jamming goes on, and nothing's ever quite the same every night, but it was certainly a very well organised and brilliant way to go about introducing a new player. So he sent me these tracks and a set list, and I learnt the stuff, and I went and did these gigs with John, and he seemed quite happy with it, and then as time went on, he gave me a few more gigs and a few more gigs, and eventually I became a very regular player, possibly the main player for a while for the John Verity band. And it's a great gig to have, because I'm a big fan of his music anyway, and he's a fantastic guy. The way he operates is superb, because it's very, very well organised. Mrs. Verity kind of manages what John does and does a brilliant job of it. So it's all very efficient. It might not sound very rock and roll, but when you do this for a living, it's a rare and wonderful thing to find. So there was another band that I became part of, that I was able to fit into the diary quite nicely, because I'd got gigs with Paddy, and I could accept I didn't have to feel like I had to accept all of John's gigs, because he did have this pool of players situation. So if I wasn't available, then it wouldn't be high and dry. So, you know, that fitted into the diary nicely. And of course, Paddy wouldn't book anything out if I already had a gig with John, because for Paddy, you know, if somebody offers him a date and I'm already busy, then he'll just, you know, do it, but on a different day. So that worked out really well. But the main thing about it is that, again, I'd found really nice, agreeable, organised people to work with again, and so this became my way forward. Whatever I was going to do, I was going to make sure that all the people that I worked with were great people who I enjoyed being around and had fun with. So, you know, and I've done some really big gigs with John. We played some superb dates, some little tours and festivals that have been big stages and with other big names and things. So it's been a very, very rewarding thing to be part of, something I'm very proud to have done. And what I'll also mention as well in this video is that as time went on, it became clear that I was going to have to back off a little bit with the amount of work I was doing with John, because I've become sort of, I think it's fair to say, his main player, and enjoyed every minute of it. But I have I've got 3 kids. One's grown up and gone, but I've got 2 kids at home. Daughter who's 9 and a son who's 3, and my son is special needs, so we have to be very careful at home about basically we juggle him. The missus works in the day and I've got him, and then she comes home and I can work in the evening, and it's very difficult to leave him with a sitter. There are a few people who can have him for us, but we can't leave him with just anyone. That sounds like I leave my daughter with just anyone. But anyway, it's so it made things a little difficult to commit to too many days away with that band, because you know the missus was taking days off work so that I could go and do these little tours and things, and obviously she can only take so many days off work, and so sadly I had to back off a little bit the amount of work I can accept with John. It's not affected me in terms of the amount of work I've got in my diary, because I've got other things that fill my diary up, and so financially everything's worked out okay. But it's a shame. I really liked working with John, and still do, but I just can't do as many of John's days as I'd like to. But that's real life, you know. When you have kids, they have to come first, and we've not fallen out about it. There's been no stress about it, because John and Carol are wonderful, wonderful people. And the drummer who does most of the gigs, because when I first started working with John, the drummer was Bob Henry from who was also a member of Argent and Phoenix. Played for the Kinks for a long, long time, and has a wonderful, wonderful dry sense of humour. And Bob had spent many years being John's main drummer, and more recently, Mr. Liam Gray has become the main player, and Liam's a very talented young fella, very serious professional musician and educator as well, and he will, I believe Liam will go far. He's a fun person to work with, and he's also worked with the Paddy Maguire Band for a while. He's done Swearbox, and you'll see that this is kind of a part of what happens with the bands I'm involved in, and I'm sure other musicians who do multiple bands are like this as well. For me in particular, my main instrument being bass, if I find a drummer who's who I work well with, who's playing I really like, who's a great guy to get on with, then that works well for me, being like a team that does more than one band, which is something I've got going on also with Mr. Tim Gillespie and with Mr. Simon Freeston also, yeah, so it's a wonderful band to be part of, and here is the latest John Verity t-shirt. I'm just gonna put that kind of, there we are. There's John in full flight, stunning singer, one of the very, very best singers out there, and a terrific guitar player whose tone is just absolutely to die for. I've taken the opportunity to learn a lot working with John, because, you know, I don't make it sound like he's an old dude, but he's been in the industry for a long time. He's often referred to on posters as a legend, and he most certainly is a legend. I've learned stuff from John about all kinds of things to do with the business, and recording, how to approach doing little tours, and all sorts of things. This weekend coming, we are playing the Giants of Rock Festival at which is at Minehead, which is it's a Butlins camp, and it's 3 days of legendary bands. Now, can I actually? I think I've got it on my phone here. There's tons and tons of bands. Hawkwind, Uriah Heep, Magnum, Nazareth, Man from Man's Earth Band, Larry Carlton, a dude from Boston, a dude from Toto, Slade, FN, Snake Charmer, Neil Murray's band. Unfortunately, they're playing on the Sunday, and I won't be there Sunday, but I bumped into Neil a few times. He's one of my absolute heroes, and he's one of those people that, because he's a legendary bass player, but he's just such a nice guy, and quite mild-mannered, that when I meet him, he's like, fantastic, Neil Murray, I have no idea what to say to you. Big Country, Strayer on, we did a gig with them, a double-header thing with the John Verity Band before, Wishbone Ash, etc, etc, there's loads of them. And yeah, so it's 3 days of classic, old school rock, basically. And we've done this festival 3 times before. I've also played it with Graham Oliver's little side project from Oliver Dawson Saxon, which was called Oliver's Army. I've done it with them, and it's a terrific event. Now, I'm not trying to sell it to anyone who doesn't have tickets, because it's sold out. It's been sold out for a long time, but it happens every January, and if you've never been, I strongly suggest buy yourself a little treat, get some tickets, and go to Giants of Rock Festival, because there's 2 main stages, and there's also smaller stages, and you know, everything's there. So you drive down, you park your car, you can get absolutely lathered for 3 days straight, and just watch rock music. So a terrific event, which I'm very much looking forward to. I'll sign off for now, and later on, if I have time, I'll make another little video about one of my other bands.